Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crystal Core Radio Podcast. We've got a focused topic about Blue Protocol. If you guys have not been paying attention to this upcoming, and some people on Reddit questioning whether this is an MMORPG or not, we could get into that. Lots of news about this upcoming game. A lot of exciting things to be talking about today. And so I'm going to get Chris caught up to speed because there has been no news, no information. It's been all quiet on the front about this game until just a couple of days ago, where they sat down and gave us dev update number 5. With dev update number 5, they also confirmed dev update number 6, a network test scheduled for January, news coming to the global us audience at the Game Awards, which I'd like to get Chris's thoughts on that, and then a target date of early spring 2023 for the release. We don't know if that's going to be a kind of rollout release, or if they're going to hit day and date the worldwide. Like, I think with our experience of Final Fantasy 14, we've been kind of spoiled on the fact that it is day and date. You're not sitting here, behind the curve. But I'm going to get Chris caught up on the speed on all what has been transpiring. And so, Chris, for just sake of discussion and just to kind of put it out there, I've seen some people questioning whether this is an MMORPG or not. And I put out a video on Ginger Blue just the other day about it. At its core, like, it's being marketed almost kind of like Destiny in terms of an online action RPG. And I believe we've seen MMO used before, but some of the marketing has shifted. It's got channels, meaning like it sounds like they're going to try to Guild Wars 2, put people into the zones. There's only going to be so much. It's an action.
Guild Wars 1.
But also Guild Wars 2, in which that they try to funnel you all into a specific zone or try to balance the population in the zone. Guild Wars 2 does that.
Because Guild Wars 1 had channels that you manually chose.
Yeah, and Guild Wars 2
you
kind of made it
drop
more
a layer.
Yeah. Guild Wars 2 made it more automatic and less, less visible to that. Because back in the launch of it, it had that same kind of concept here. It sounds like they're going to try to balance people into...
Have you done a meta in Guild Wars 2? Okay, you can still have 200 people in a zone.
Right. Now,
you can have so many people it won't render them all. As
I don't think
to
this
something
is
that's
going
channel-based, I don't think it will. So
I know this is... I would assume like maximum they're going to be maybe talking about 20, 25 people.
Okay.
For
Guild Wars 2 can get it to the point where they're not all rendering. Like it's and every time you move, it drops a set of players and brings it in. So you can just have.
So it could be more akin to Guild Wars 1. It is a free to play, which also has a lot of interesting questions because I don't know, either accidentally or on purpose, seen their battle pass model. So that's going to be one of the big monetization models for the game itself, and they kind of show that off in dev update number 5. And because it's free to play, originally I thought they were saying that it was going to have player trade. It does not seem like that's going to be something that they have in this game, where more or less that it's maybe a little bit more Monster Hunter-esque, where instead of getting the like a piece of gear, you get the items to craft it, and it sounds like you yourself will be kind of the key indicator of who's crafting it itself. But anyway, it's just like for an anime MMORPG based out of Japan. I think one of the things that people immediately draw and jump to is Genshin Impact and Tower of Fantasy. Those being two heavily like Chinese influenced games. It has that same kind of art style, but I think essentially being that this is Bandai Namco, I think more people might actually resonate with it. So I don't know if Genshin or Tower of Fantasy, if there's going to be a lot of pull from that community, or if there's going to be more competition because of just the fact that it is a little bit more. I think it feels like already like a deeper game, a deeper experience, having yet to go hands on with it. What questions do you have about this game? What ultimately would be your deciding factor whether to try it out or not? Maybe the spring or later in 2023.
What are they doing that makes them truly unique?
Ooh, that is the real good question here. If in the space of like a Genshin and Tower of Fantasy, I think essentially if I was going to answer that question with that context in mind, it would be that they've definitely leveled up kind of the user experience, the community driven experience, the online persistence. It's not a mobile first kind of game that's also on PC. It is right now PC only. But in terms of like the grand scheme of online action RPGs, well, I don't, outside the art style, it's an action online RPG. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's to say, like, I don't think you're going to be sitting here like saying, oh, they've reinvented the genre, so to speak, unless you're asking a different kind of question.
No, I'm kind of in a spot where I'm happy in the MMOs I'm playing now. And for some people that's one MMO, for some people that's a couple.
Yeah.
For me it's four. So it's a lot. But I'm happy where I'm at. And so if I'm gonna add another game to my life, like I'm starting to take interest in Ashes of Creation, I want to know what that game is claiming that it will do that's unique. Ashes of Creation is claiming a scale that nobody has ever done.
Yeah.
Like they're like Final Fantasy 14 has questing. That's cute. We're gonna have way more story.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft has stuff to kill. No, we're gonna kill way more stuff.
Yeah.
So like it just there are events that you consider dynamic in Guild Wars 2. No, that's so boring compared to what we're going to do. And so like their scale interests me because that is something they are claiming that no one else is claiming they can do that. Now, before it releases, it's all just claims. So anything that Blue Protocol says, anything that the Riot MMO says, it's all just talk until it comes out. But that's what we have. So I was just wondering what within their talk is looking like something worth investing in on day one, outside of just enjoying day one of MMOs, which on its own is enough merit. Like if you're just like, I just like day one MMOs, go do that. And then as soon as Blue Protocol is not the new kid on the block, go do the next new game. Like it's fun to just be in new games. I just wondered if there was anything they were doing that was going to at all redefine the space, either by pushing the edge of what can be done within a particular category or increasing the total amount, or it sounds like you're saying increase the quality.
Well, in terms of quality, right? Because that's a debatable thing. Like what is the quality that you specifically look for in a game like this? That could vary by person to person, but to focus it in on something that I personally haven't really seen done in the space in a while. If we take Final Fantasy 14 and we take like Phantasy Star Online 2, I feel like these are kind of two games that are somewhat like inspiring, at least from a how do you make a successful game, like this. And so it seems like in some ways they're drawing from both aspects, like where the dev updates have been serving like Yoshi P's live letters. They sit down, they talk you through the content, they answer questions. I think that's a real strength. Like when you start to see how, like you go back pre Final Fantasy 14 and Yoshi P, like it was for us, especially in the West, absolutely quiet. Like it was, you would be, oh my gosh, we finally got news. And then it's like everything kind of, oh, I hit the mic. Everything kind of like gets quiet again. And then now we see these regularly kind of updates. And so they kind of have this model set up, especially going after launch to communicate. But from a quality perspective, in terms of its art style, when we're talking about anime, like we talk about WoW and how in terms of its art, like you might not like its art style, but it's something that has allowed the game to scale and to persist without having to have, where you look back and say, oh, that does not look good anymore. Like it's like that, visually, like you went for the hyper realism in 2001 and for the day was great, but now we can do so much more that it looks dated. And WoW can, they can enhance their textures and still have this persistence with its style in terms of an anime. Like it looks like you're almost in like Sword Art Online. It looks like you are playing an anime, which is something that Bandai Namco has been like producing. They've been producing these really high quality anime style games, and to see that taken more into an online space and to maybe step up and start to compete against games that have this immediate draw. Like, I don't know if it's all marketing, especially when it comes to like Genshin and Tower of Fantasy, but like in terms of like what I get to see on the back end of YouTube analytics, there is a real interest, a real demand for this kind of art style. And there really isn't a game that represents that pure anime. Because like we've heard Asmongold called 14 an anime. Like we've heard people label 14 as an anime. And I've always looked at that and go, I don't see it. I don't connect into that. That art, I don't
think WoW looks like a cartoon. Like
right.
When I picture you've drawn comics, that's not what WoW looks like. Like Borderlands is way closer to that with the shell shading where it almost looks like colored pencil with an outline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So exactly. I think just on a spectrum, like I think it's a more on the anime end. So if you've been down here playing on like, maybe like Monster Hunter, or you've been playing other games, like other genres, or you've been playing World of Warcraft, maybe it's more on the anime end. But I agree with you. It's not what like Sword Art Online is, right? Like where you go, it's like, whoa,
yeah, I
am literally running around. Like if they made a Dragon Ball Z MMO, we would expect it to look
like
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I would say, like in terms of the spectrum of like possibility in art style, its art style is something really unique, and it looks
Cool.
from everything they've shown off like really beautiful. Like it's, you know, that's something exciting to see. And then when you start to look at like the weaknesses of like a Genshin and of you know, a Tower of Fantasy, like this has the opportunity to kind of really capitalize on those who are wanting to kind of play in that space, but haven't really been given, you know, kind of a more meaty kind of experience to kind of, you know, jump into.
So what's the initial buy-in content wise, and what's the monetization plan?
So right now the initial buy-in is free to play, and that's where like the fact that they decided, or they said that there's no player trade, kind of starts to make sense, because I was like, if you make a player, you know, trading system and a free to play, you're inviting in a lot, you know, with low risk, right, to botting and trying to, you know, break the system itself. But they do have a battle pass, which actually they showed off last time, and I don't know if it was on purpose, but it looks like a standard battle pass, free tier, premium tier, and it looks like they're going to have like some convenience based items. And so it's not going to be like, there will be a debate online where people will look at this and say it is a pay to win. Right now we haven't seen anything in terms of that. They've said that there's going to be no pay to win, but that phrase means something different to anybody. We've seen people call 14 pay to win, and it was really weird. Like that was you know, when I saw that label applied to 14, it's like, whew, we're really reaching for something here. But I think that in a free to play model, that's going to be a bigger discussion that comes up, namely because of the fact there is no cost to enter the game. Now, it does require a PC. It's not like this game's going to run on your mobile phone. It's currently not playing for consoles, but I see chat asking if it has controller support, and they have shown off controller support. So day and date, that's not something coming down the road. That's something that literally works for the game right out of the box. And so, yeah, the only thing that might be required if they don't do a day and date rollout across the globe, you might want a VPN or something like that to kind of like go play around in the Japanese release or something like that.
And then what's the initial content serving? What are we doing in game? Is this just questing in dungeons, or like what are we
questing dungeons, getting loot?
I mean, that's pretty typical, but every once in a while somebody's like, we're gonna change it up.
No, they don't seem to be making these grandiose like, which is a kind of refreshing.
There are a lot of people like, we're gonna totally change the way people quest, and then like it's like, okay. And then for the last 15 years, I've been collecting 10 bear butts, saving 10 bears, grabbing the rock from the 10 bears, or escorting a guy beyond the 10 bears. Like that's what you do. Like that's every quest in every MMO. And they're like, we're going to change that up. And then there's one thing, and it's like, use this telescope to take pictures of bears. And you're like, that was kind of neat. And then that's it. Like, it's like, oh, I mean, I guess that was different. Like I flew in a helicopter and I dropped apples on the bears. Like that was kind of cool. But like, it still ultimately drops down to those initial 4 quest types over and over and over and over and over and over. Kill, gather, retrieve, escort,
or defend, you know, in that regards.
Like, okay, now we're not gonna escort. The bears will come to you.
Yeah, you don't need to go to the bears are already
here. I guess that's a change.
Yeah, protect the apple carts.
And like, as somebody likes MMOs, I'm fine. Like, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I keep opting in for more of this, but when somebody comes in and goes, well, what I don't like is those 4 quest types, I'm like, you need to find a different genre.
Right.
Like, go play something like Diablo or something where it has a lot of the other same qualities, and you just remove that aspect of the game, because you're not going to like MMORPGs, because that's what you do. Like, it's a lot of questing. So 10 ice creams to the bears, which is interesting. It turns into a defend very quickly when the other 10 bears realize you're out of ice cream.
Like, there was 20 bears and
yeah. Have you, just to derail a little bit, have you played the new Call of Duty mode? It is like a battle royale meets like a Horizon Zero Dawn, like MMO weird. Like you're questing, you're literally questing. You drop into a zone. There's AI. There's other players too. Constant PvP. So like, but if you shoot them, it's just like shooting AI. You don't get anything else except that they drop a lot more loot. And then you have to evac out. And if you don't evac out, you don't take your rewards with you. You get a lot of experience, but you don't take your rewards with you. And what you drop in with is based on this like armory you have. And your armory gets stocked from things like completing quests, but also like successfully evacing. So if you successfully evac, all the stuff you brought with you goes into kind of your armory for future deploys, which means like if you keep going in and dying, your total amount of stuff to deploy with whittles down to where like theoretically they could be like, you got two fists, bud. Like the choices you made up to this point are what caused this.
I like it.
It was wildly fun this week. It shocked me. I never thought of somebody actually inventing like a truly new take on a mode.
Yeah. I downloaded
maybe
Warzone
it's not
2.0.
truly new. Maybe somebody else is like, this has existed in 10 other places. But I really liked it.
You bring up a really good point because we've seen continually debate around like really what is an MMO. Like when we look at like Fortnite and we look at like Battle Royale, like in terms of like pushing some limits, it's like whether people like them or not, like at its core, like they're doing unique and interesting things, and they seem to be borrowing a lot of MMO concepts.
It's not full Tarkov. It's not full MMO.
Yeah. What this feels like, at least in terms of its design, like there's going to be fishing. They already kind of showed they're going to, in the next dev update, they're going to be talking about what's new. So what we have, and I've already, like, the internet's such an interesting place, especially like when I just narrow it into the Blue Protocol world, because if you look at just when you start to think about gamer drama, right? Like how gamers process information. So hype, excitement, Blue Protocol, and then all of a sudden, absolute silence from the dev team. And then what happens is, and what we saw happen is that then all of a sudden there became this group of gamers on the internet that was convinced, or it was their mission to convince everybody that this game was canceled. It was wild, right? They're like, this game is canceled. Here's the proof. I've analyzed all these things. You're an idiot. The game is done. It's like, well, then if it's done, like they could just come out and say it. Like, they're not done. They've had multiple closed betas. Like we were in the beta phase. They're taking the feedback. They're adjusting for COVID. The game is delayed. Like that's as far as I'm willing to go. Now, as more information starts to come out, and this is just something interesting because I one of the videos I'm working on for Ginger Prime is that the Riot MMO is already a masterpiece because we know nothing about it. But the more information you start to reveal about a game, it starts to shatter people's preconceived notions, and that's what you kind of see happening online. So it's like seeing some of the discussion now shift from the game's canceled to like, okay, like what is it even doing that's new? They've had 2 years. Like that was another thread that I thought was pretty amusing, was like they've had 2 years, they haven't shown us anything new, and they literally were like, okay, we're just catching you up to speed on where we've been, and in December we're going to talk about some of the new stuff that's coming. It's like, all right, buddy, like. You gotta cool your jets, dude. You gotta just take a breath. So the internet's a fun, interesting place and a difficult place where you have conversations around games sometimes because, oh man, the amount of, I don't know. It's just there's a level of humor that I got out of the last week at a minimum. Just kind of reading the Reddit kind of go from it's canceled to what are they doing new. Anyway, I find that amusing. But to your point. Like, they're not claiming to, like, especially that's the problem with Ashes, and my concern for Ashes is that their claims are so big.
Oh yeah. We've hooked rocket boosters to this car. I mean, there's a wall up ahead,
but imagine,
they said that's not going to be a problem.
But
we are just hooking up more rocket boosters. Like, and people are like, why are you starting to cover this game? I've never covered one before it's out. But that is a lot of rocket boosters on one car. Yeah. Like I have to watch because we are going to the moon or we are hitting that wall. Those are the only two ways this ends.
They talked about a flux capacitor and the ability to like go back in time and save the genre.
Because what if we do? Yeah. What if we do go back in time? I'm excited. Either we are in for a glorious hitting of the wall or we are going back in time. I am stoked.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see because I don't want to put false expectations or hope into people's ears, but it'd be interesting to see if Blue Protocol actually is doing something unique and refreshing to the genre, but they're just not talking about it, and they're going to let people discover that, and then people are like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted this aspect, right? They're not sitting here claiming it's going to do
EVE Online was a slow burn like that. EVE Online never heavily marketed and always just kind of did their thing and like iterated on it. Elite Dangerous has done the same thing. Warframe did the same thing for a long time. And you end up with a smaller community, but a really devout community that really appreciates you and talks really highly. And you don't have the big fall on the other end of the big climb. And so you don't end up having to, there's a podcast on Planet Money about Magic the Gathering choosing not to go down the road of like Beanie Babies, even though all their advisors told them to, of like, we're just going to slow maintain this, which is why it's really interesting to see them making the changes. If you go look at Magic the Gathering in the news now, whoa. And so there is some advantage to that. And like, it doesn't mean you won't burn out eventually. It doesn't mean after 10 or 20 years, you won't end up where Magic the Gathering is now, but it does give you a lot longer burn time. And the Path of Exiles devs have talked about like how that's what they wanted. They wanted a community they could have a conversation with. They wanted a community that loved their game, and they were willing to design a game in a way that it didn't take as big of a community to sustain them. So they didn't need that big upfront return, and they could say, you know what, I'd rather maintain this quietly to a group of fans that like it and make what we need to make over 10 years than have the big, we made CNN, what's this video game? Who's this guy with blue hair? Like, we don't need to have this big multi-billion-dollar out of the gate. It's just a different way to run a game.
Yeah, marketing is going to be an important aspect because, like, we've heard Yoshi P talk about, like, the reason why he spends money on marketing is not just to draw in new players, but to keep existing players. Like, to see that information in the news, and being talked about is important. And also his structure of delivering updates on time is also a key aspect to like Final Fantasy 14's success. And we start to see when games start to model that, it allows for players to kind of have these mini hype cycles. Like, oh man, because I'm excited for the next New World update. Like in the next update this December, there's a couple of things that they're changing, which we've needed for a long time. Like with the company, like we have people who want to join us, and they're like, oh, I'm a part of this faction. Well, they're finally going to say that a company can be tied to a faction, but its members can be any faction. Great, thank you. We just want to play together. Like that's the aspect of it. And then they're bringing in leaderboards, and I think that's going to be something interesting to see. I'm very curious to see how that plays on me as a gamer, because I'm like, interestingly enough, regardless of what some people think, like I actually am pretty hyper competitive, and to be able to kind of see my name on a board is appealing. But it could be also concerning because it's like I don't really take breaks in that regard. So with it all coming into Blue Protocol in the spring, I'm hoping that one of two things, that they either hit a global release, because like I've been following this game for a long time. I don't think Blue Protocol is going to be like this like perfect like MMORPG. I think it's going to be a really fun game. It's going to have a really like great art style and story, and it's going to be something that is something I think you can pick up, play, and you can kind of step away from if you want to, just like with how they've modeled Final Fantasy 14. And that's going to be something interesting to see. I like the action kind of style combat that they have. I think that will be interesting to see for MMOs going forward, just like we've seen Final Fantasy 14 or Final Fantasy series go away from like turn-based, and with 16 and 15 and 7R more shifting into kind of an action style game. And I'm wondering if we'll see more MMOs, because I mean, aside from Ashes, they kind of seem like they're hitting up the Guild Wars 2 model of an action cam, but still tab targeting, which will be interesting to see, like in the long run. I saw, like, I was surprised by that, because I think I misheard what they were kind of trying to do. But at its core, I think Blue Protocol will be, if marketed well, could be something that does do like really crazy numbers, because we've seen those crazy numbers come in with things like Genshin. But maybe that's a lot of the mobile aspect. Maybe the fact that it's not going to be on mobile, that maybe gives us an interesting kind of take in terms of it. But that's just my random monologue of thoughts. Do you have any other questions about the game? Because the next update is going to be in December. No. And they did confirm that they're going to make a global announcement at the Game Awards this year.
Cool.
So I think that's interesting. I'd like to get your thought on that before we just kind of talk about whatever. The Game Awards is interesting because obviously they sat down to talk to, in Japan. Like, it's like, this is like a live letter, not an English live letter. This is they're speaking in Japanese, fan translated. That's how we get the information. And then in that, they talk about, for the global audience who they know is watching, that news is coming as a part of, a kind of announcement. Do you think they're going to announce kind of a simultaneous worldwide launch, or do you find that them holding that back is a smart play for a bigger, wider audience? What do you think?
As far as should they announce at the Game Awards?
Yeah.
I would say don't announce unless you're less than 6 months out. Mm-hmm. And preferably, in my opinion, less than 3 months out. Mm-hmm. We live in a time where we have too many games and they all come out in these big waves. And so you just get washed out, and you can make a lot of people bitter. And so I would just build hype. I think that aspect of not knowing what the game is seems to be something people really like. And yet, because of the internet, we're perfectly capable of kind of ruining our own surprise. Mm-hmm. And so like the Riot MMO is a 10 of 10 because we don't even have a name.
Yeah.
And so the moment we don't know what something is, we go out to the internet and we Google the crap out of it. And because of data miners and all of the communication that we do expect and is good, if that runs for too long, if that's a year, if that's 5 years, if that's 10 years, like some of these games have for dev cycles, and we know the entire time when it's targeted, what it's called and all that, it just creates a lot of room to be bitter. So the answer to people not spoiling themselves is don't give them any information. And the best way to keep a secret is to not tell anybody. Like the number, if you really have something you want to keep a secret, it needs to, don't even tell one other person. It needs to just be you. Like that's the only way to guarantee it never comes out. And so when you have these companies that are like shocked that the public narrative takes over, but they like gave us enough information to speculate and they gave it to us a year or 2 years out, that's problematic. So like I would announce it right up against when you're going to release.
Yeah.
Like I think Apex did it right.
Oh yeah.
And it covered up a lot of their early flaws. And that was a day and date.
It also allows for them to set that, go play it, because we've seen a lot of people, you know, like you'll see the people speculating about the pay to, like at the end of the day, like people asking, oh, is it going to be this or is it going to be that? The answer should be, oh, just go play it for yourself and form your own opinion, as opposed to like worrying about anything that some YouTuber has to say or think about it. Because like I think that's where Apex knocked it out of the park, because it didn't give people the time enough to like already dog on it. Oh, it's just another battle royale. Yeah. Oh, go play it right now. Oh, okay. I'll go check it out. Oh, this is actually really cool. Agent says if they were going to actually announce a global release, why not announce it at the last update as opposed to waiting to the Game Awards? Do you want to weigh in on that?
The only thing the Game Awards offers a company is a platform the size of the Game Awards. And so when you are somebody like Square Enix, that is a downgrade over a Square Enix exclusive event. Same with Sony, same with Nintendo. These days, those events are no longer a guaranteed multiplier. For some companies, you're going to get drowned out by the other announcements there. But for smaller titles that people have not been following, Bandai Namco is a plenty big company, but people have not been following that they're coming out with an MMO, where you talk about like indie developers, that is actually a net gain. And so if you are an indie developer and you get a chance to announce there, that's a risk that somebody that goes there to find out, did Final Fantasy 14 win best whatever, accidentally finds out about your game. And so like that's why you announce at awards, is that you think that it is going to be louder than if you announce on your own.
Well, especially
I think Final Fantasy 14 is way better off announcing things at things like FanFest.
Yeah.
Because FanFest is louder within the group that is going to be downloading their game than the Game Awards are.
Yeah. And to kind of build off of that, when they announce like Final Fantasy does at those events, they're multi-language, right? They're set up for that. This was the Japanese, only voice stream with fans translation. Like, no. Like you want to sit down and say like, okay, if we're going to say something to the world, let's say something that is easily like understood. And what this also does is the fact that they said something is coming at this event, it helps to build expectation. And in a way, both the Game Awards benefits from having this whatever announcement there is, and so do they. Now, the announcement has to be significant, because if the announcement is like, hey, global, we're still going to come to global, but we don't know when, like that ends up just going like,
you want press to take it. You want press to take it, because press will, like you said, with language, press will go translate that into every language. So if you have a significant announcement at the Game Awards, it will get translated into every language on local gaming publications. Something as big as Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft gets that for free. They announce something and all the press goes out and finds it and translates it. But if you are a nobody of a game, right, and that doesn't mean you're not significant to that community. I think the new Warhammer game just came out. Maybe that got caught by press. Maybe it didn't. It depends on what else is going on in the news that week. But if you do that at the Game Awards, you have a higher chance of somebody getting, let me sum up the awards and translate this into German and into French and into Spanish and Portuguese. And like it just spreads the news. So like that's the advantage.
Yeah. And then what you end up having is that you have then that interest, because if it was just me like freaking out in a video, oh my gosh, they're coming and it's May, it's like, I don't have the reach that, that people who aren't already interested in Blue Protocol aren't going to find. So if you like,
you got Budget Asmon and Bald Prime, who cares about those
exactly. It's like, what's going on? So the, at its core, that's, I think, one of the strengths. Now, I hope the announcement is significant. Obviously we'll be excited to hear what it is. We can't really live stream the Game Awards because there's going to be so much licensed music unless they give sometimes they've given a pathway.
Yeah, yeah,
So it might be just like, all
yeah.
right, watching
The
it.
Game
And then,
Awards brought to you by ACDC. Restream
great.
it if you dare.
Good luck. Oh, good luck, you YouTubers and Twitch streamers. Twitch streamers probably get a little bit easier than the YouTube side of things.
Yeah, their VOD just gets muted.
Yeah,
muted into the ground.
muted in the ground. Chris, any other thoughts before what do you got planned for today over on Twitch?
So right now I am trying to cover 4 MMOs as well as be aware of what's going on with Ashes.
Mm-hmm.
So Final Fantasy 14, I am finishing up, so my story character's all leveled, and I am gearing up to, in December, I'm going to have, I think middle of December, I'm going to do Warring Triad, Void Arc, and Alexander all in the same week, as well as finish up the last of those class quests ideally, so that I'm going into Stormblood right at the beginning of January, ideally the week before the patch.
Yeah.
First week of January. And then New World, I'm in a pretty good spot. I got to level 40 this last week on my main. Now that I did that fresh start server, I went back to my main. Everything's faster. Yeah. Everything's faster because I know what I'm doing. Because the fresh start character gave me a chance to really experiment and like push hard into things. And so I did some fun exploration content, and people were like, "You're not being optimal." And it's like, I just had some fun. But then we did go ahead and buckle down and say, "Okay, let's get some stuff done. Let's see how optimal you can." And like once you start really blasting quests, it's lightning fast. Yeah. I was leveling so fast, which was awesome. In World of Warcraft, I'm up to like 4 or 5 level 60s. The event going on right now is ridiculous from getting you 50 to 60. It's 10 to 15 minutes a level. It's outrageously fast. That event will end with the expansion. So I'm just spending time in that every day. I'd like to get my main up to item level 278. I think the quests are going to kind of feed that to you. But the way their scaling system works, the first levels when there's the most people around are kind of fun if you're a little overpowered. And I think 278 will make me a little overpowered. So especially as a spec that's kind of been on the list where I've been warned, hey, out of 38 specs, there's kind of these 5 that are struggling. I'm picking one of those 5 because I picked my spec before any of that. And I don't care. Like I'm going to play the way I play. Yeah. So this week I'm mostly going to be keeping my main Final Fantasy character up to date. Keeping Tome Capped and all that, having a blast. I've gotten almost all the tank relics as a result of that. So I'm going to keep doing that, keep capping tomes. And then plus there's a ton of MMO elements about that. It's really fun to go do hunts. And then I'm going to play WoW this week and just kind of keep that caught up. There will be drops on launch on the 28th. And I'm going to be playing it like a Final Fantasy expansion. We're going to slow down, listen to the voice acting, read the story. If I have any questions about the story, we're going to go Google things. So anybody who doesn't maybe necessarily like WoW gameplay, but is interested in the lore of WoW, I'm going in open-minded. I've been told over and over the best way to get into the lore of WoW is, oh, WoW lore bad. But like actually so far I've been learning about all the dragon flights and stuff, and I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know. It's been enjoyable. I enjoyed the Evoker line.
That's great.
I'm liking it.
That's great. All right, guys. Let's send you all over to Twitch if you want to hang out again with Chris on what he's got planned and what he's got going on. Let's see here. I'll just put the link in chat. TPS Twitch work the game. And let's see.
New world record in World of Warcraft from 10 to 60. It took 3 hours.
10 to 60, 3 hours. Wow.
Oh my god. I assume that's only possible during the event.
Probably with the XP boost. All right, cool. I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday, and probably, Wednesday is still a work day. And hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hopefully we'll see you next time. But until then, take care.